Most people imagine the time of Jesus as a spiritual postcard. Sandals, sermons, miracles, a moral story taking place somewhere far away. But if you ask a different question, not what people believed, but what life actually felt like, the answer isn't theology. It's money, or more precisely, or the constant absence of it. This wasn't just a religious world. It was one of the most economically unequal systems the ancient Mediterranean had ever produced. Welcome to Economist Historian, where money, power, and belief collide, and nothing is ever as simple as it looks. At the beginning of the first century, Judea existed inside the Roman Empire. Rome wasn't just powerful, it was efficient, an extraction machine. Rome didn't conquer territories to integrate them. It conquered them to feed the center. Grain, silver, labor, flowing outward from the provinces and inward toward Rome. Judea was one of those provinces. And that mattered, because Judea wasn't rich. It was rural, agricultural, fragile. Most people lived on small plots of land, not farms, not businesses, just enough to survive. One bad harvest didn't mean lower profits. It meant hunger. Rome didn't care. Rome ruled Judea through local elites and imperial officials. Kings like Herod ruled with Roman approval. After his death, Roman prefects took over. Men like Pontius Pilate. Their job wasn't to improve life. It was simple. Keep order and keep the money moving. Taxes were the backbone of everything, and this is where modern assumptions collapse. Today, taxes are tied to income. In Judea, taxes were owed because you existed. Land taxes, produce taxes, head taxes, tolls on roads and markets. And on top of all of it, religious taxes. Miss a payment, and there was no negotiation, no paperwork, no appeals. Tax collection was outsourced to contractors, tax farmers. They paid Rome up front for the right to collect. Then they squeezed the population to recover their costs and make a profit. Abuse wasn't a failure of the system. It was the point. If you couldn't pay, you borrowed. Debt was everywhere, but this wasn't modern debt. There was no bankruptcy, no restructuring, no escape. Interest accumulated fast, and land was the collateral. One bad year was enough to start a spiral that never ended. It usually went like this. A farmer plants his crops, the weather turns, the harvest fails, taxes are still due. So he borrows, interest builds. The next year is slightly better. Not enough. Eventually the land is seized. The farmer becomes a tenant on what used to be his own land. Or worse, he disappears. This wasn't accidental. It was structural. Over time, land concentrated into fewer hands. Small plots vanished. Large estates grew. Wealth clustered around elites connected to Rome and temple authority. Everyone else slid downward. The economy didn't just create poverty. It reproduced it. There was no safety net, no welfare, no unemployment support, no public housing. Family was the only buffer. Charity existed, but charity couldn't cancel debt. It couldn't restore land. It treated symptoms, not causes. Debt wasn't just financial, it was social. Losing land meant losing status, losing security, losing identity, a single drought, a tax increase, one missed payment, enough to erase a family's future. This is the world Jesus was born into, and this matters. People weren't poor because they were lazy, or immoral, or cursed. They were poor because the system required them to be. Rome needed surplus. Local elites needed rent. The temple needed revenue. All that pressure landed on people with the least margin for error. And it produced something else. Tension. Judea wasn't calm. It was volatile. Rebellions were constant. Banditry wasn't crime. It was desperation. Messianic movements didn't appear in comfort, they appeared in collapse. When people heard sermons about debt forgiveness, they didn't hear metaphors, they heard survival. When they heard talk about the poor, they didn't imagine abstract compassion. They imagined themselves. Forgiveness didn't just mean emotional relief, it meant cancelled debt, release, escape. And escape was rare. Rome's system was efficient, not humane. It extracted wealth upward with brutal consistency. Stability mattered more than fairness. Revenue mattered more than lives. People worked harder and fell further behind. Growth lifted a few and sank the rest, and everyone knew it. No one believed the system was fair. There was only endurance, resentment, and the quiet hope that something might break the cycle. To understand why the pressure felt inescapable, you have to look at the institution people believed was supposed to protect them, the temple. Most people imagine it as purely religious. In reality, it was one of the most powerful financial institutions in the region.